Okay, everybody, welcome back to my garden. And you have no idea how many times you've been welcome back to my garden because my Wi-Fi got wacky and I got cut off about 90% of the way through this presentation for you. So just to make sure at least we get the good part of this, we're going to pull my inner child card first. I was going to pull that at the end and see what the cards have to say. They should have told me before, don't even start this, go ain't gonna work. Oh, we got the Guide of Wands, and it's the Pied Piper of Hamelin. I kind of felt that way when I couldn't get anything to work. I'm like, well, why? It just went away, went away, went away. The Guide of Wands is the Pied Piper. When the town of Hamelin was infested with rats, a mysterious visitor appeared, and he said he could pipe the rats into the river for free. You got to remember, in the Middle Ages, when most of these nursery rhymes were based on, the rats were what was causing the plague. They didn't know that, but they just knew they had a lot of them around. But after he completes his deed, he does his job. The townspeople don't abide by their side of the contract. Then the Pied Piper becomes angry and he decides to take his revenge. So he pipes his tune and all the children follow him, and he takes what the people had that was most precious to them, their children. So the rats were the negative thoughts within the town's consciousness. It required purification, cleansing in the river. Their refusal to value what the muse had brought to them and that power of that creative artistry. For their blindness and ignorance, they lose their future genius, their own children. Eventually, the people understand their failures and they get the children back. In some of the stories, some of the Grimm's fairy tales are not, they were called Grimm because that was their family name, but it also was because they were Grimm. Anyway, when the Pied Piper appears in your reading, it's time to follow your inner guide, your ingenious, inventive brand of thinking. Do not follow the outer leader, piping a hypnotic tune. Listen instead to the gentle refrains that guide your own inner music. Be playful, dance, sing, let out your artistic gifts blossom. Pay homage to the creative spirit that leads you on the path of life. So I'm going to take it that means that the thoughts I've had for today's show, I've been led to have. I'm listening to them. I'm also looking at them from my own perspective. I got a letter. I got an email. I can still call them letters because I'm old. I got an email from a woman I read last week, and she told me she was thinking about some of the things we discussed she needed to do. And she decided she was going to buy a ruby, and they had explained to her that the ruby she was interested in was treated. And rubies are fire energy. They're beautiful, beautiful stones. But, what I always remember about rubies is it's no accident that Dorothy had on ruby slippers and tapped her ruby slippers to go home to her base, because ruby is the gemstone that is in the root chakra, means the root chakra. Rubies are not all just stunningly shiny, clear, and there are several ways that they do treat them. So I knew that happened. I just didn't know that much about it. So I went looking for her today. And I think she wants to have that energy in her life. She just wants to make sure that if they tamper with it, they don't screw the energy up. Well, I can't find anybody who says it changes the metaphysical property. Quite the opposite. In inspecting it, I actually started looking at this 2 days ago because I heard someone talk about a blue topaz that had been treated, and it was treated with irradiation, and it actually lines the refracting elements in that stone up to make them much more stunning, and they claim much more energetically reactive. So that was blue topaz, but we're looking at rubies. Natural rubies have colors from like pinky to the really deep color we expect. Rubies are actually from conundrum, which is aluminum oxide. And if you've ever seen really raw aluminum oxide that isn't going to go to gem quality, it's like, it looks like a little tumbler, but it's got some regular sides. I think it's 8. It's 8-sided. I'm not sure. It's a very rough looking stone. Natural rubies have a lot of color impurities. They actually have a lot of rutile needles, and we talked about that a couple of sessions ago. Rutiles are the little threads of other minerals that get into quartz, and rutile quartz, it's said to give it extra power. In rutile rubies, sometimes the way they fall, they make them into a cabochon, and the way the rutile threads play out, it looks like a cat's eye. It makes they call them star rubies, and they are considered more important for healing and for magic. But if you just get a regular ruby, it's supposed to calm your hyperness, and it's supposed to overcome lethargy and exhaustion, anything that's energetic, maintains passion, and it's been known to be an aphrodisiac. It's a strong spiritual stone, both natural and lab created. And that's what I kept finding in all the articles when I was going through crystal vaults and a bunch of other sites about crystals, gem quality information. They said that the ruby really means to become a master of your own fate. When you wear a ruby, that's what you're looking for. Now, what she was looking at is what they call a fractured filled ruby. And what they do is they treat it with leaded glass, and it ends up that leaded glass and rubies have the same refractive index. So when they treat it with this, it makes them much stronger. It makes them stronger than the natural emeralds, which they can fracture and have some problems. And it makes it more brilliant. There are samples of them side by side, where one that was treated and one wasn't. They're easy to detect, and they're almost always disclosed. When you go to buy a ruby, they will say, this has been fracture filled, or this has been altered. It's been altered by heat. It's been altered by other options. And the price is normally adjusted. Well, a lot of the rubies come out of Asia, and the Asian Institute of Gemology has said that these treatments, they do not believe alter the basic gem. In other words, the gem is what the gem was. Now, and I'm not sure, they're not studying it for metaphysics, but I would think it would be somewhat the same. They do heat treatments that improve the color. It removes iron stains, it dissolves inclusions and fills tiny cracks. And that's basically what the fractured filled ruby is. Apparently rubies have lots of tiny little cracks in them. Who knew, right? So there's a debate. When people debate whether we should mess with gems, well, if you've ever seen a raw gem come out of the ground, it doesn't look like much. We cut them, we facet them, we polish them, we do all sorts of stuff to them to make them more appealing. So is that to say that that changes the quality of what comes out of the ground? You know, the things that we're more used to? Now, the show I saw last night that kind of this ties to was I was watching an opal cutter. I like to watch wood turning and gem things out to wind down at night and kind of get mindless before I go to bed. Not that I'm all that mindful during the day, but that's my extra little treat to get to close the brains down. And this man was talking about synthetic opals. Now, I know about synthetic opals, and they're not even starting from the opal. They're like making it from the ground up. They're just growing it. And he was talking about that if they have names for it, they call it imitative opal, synthetic opal, or opal simulant. And not stimulant, not with a T, but simulant, as in similar to. And the first opal, what he calls fake opal, it was produced in 1971, and was produced by someone named Slocum. Therefore, it became known as Slocum glass, the Slocum stone. And it was made out of glass. And what they did is they melted the glass together and they embedded in it bits and pieces that had the refractive qualities of an opal. So when you polish it up, it looked like an opal. Then there was something called the Gilson synthetic, quote, fake, unquote, opal that came up in 1974. And what he did is he based it actually on the structure and the ways that opals grow themselves. So he's just taken the process that makes the opal grow and creating a false one, a fake one. It has real opal structure in the silica, and he puts in the little, I guess the best illustration I've ever seen, it looks like a bunch of little tennis balls, but if they're lined up just right, the light can get through them. If they don't, opal just looks like a shiny white stone. And he set up the spheres within this structure so that they would refract the colors he wanted and in the light, and separate those colors out so that you get the flash you see in opals. And he showed some pieces of this stuff, and it's really, really interesting. If you line the opal, you can take the same silicate, and if you line it up wrong, it becomes what they call potch, and it looks white. It just looks white. So in 2010, Kirasina started to make simulated opals from a resin base and sold those. And they look really good, but you have to understand it's not an opal. And then what he did is he made a cabochon out of it, and it's called, they don't do it in glass anymore, they do it in a plastic mixture. And as he pointed out, and I can swear to this, when you're working with resins and plastics and stuff, you need rebreathers, you need all this stuff, because when you're working with plastics, you're working with chemicals that can really make you sick. So he polished it up and made a cabochon out of it. And he said, not only is it looks like an opal, but it's dangerous and it's not really an opal. So why should you mess with it? But if you go to Kirasina's website, somewhere in there you can find, they can make you custom colored opals. They can make it whatever you want it to look like, but it's not an opal. I mean, that one I think is different. That when I talk about people being careful about the stones they get, I use opalite, which I know it's a glass-based opal product that gives you that little cast of opal. It has the feel of opal, and where I use it in my grids, I think it's appropriate, but I'm not using plastic. You know, I'll use mother of pearl that comes out of the sea also. And I've done a couple of grids where I used coral, which isn't a gem either, but it's natural. So in answer to my friend who said she was going to watch tonight, I think it's, as long as they revealed that the ruby's been treated, they've actually made it a stronger stone for you. And I think it's a good stone to go ahead and work with. I think the opal is another decision. If you just want to have something that looks like opal, then go for it. If you want opal that has the power that Mother Nature puts into the stones and rocks that we look at, then, you know, I would not go for the plastic opal stuff. Okay, now we're going in further into the week. I'm going to be doing a show with Sheila from Celtic Tarot, and she wanted to do something different. And so we're talking about shifting your energy. And the two statements that I wanted her and I to think about have to do with acceptance. If I can find them, I will read them to you. Okay. These are two statements we're going to kind of start to talk about. But what I'd like is questions you have or thoughts you have about how this works, because that gives us something to read from. And I can't read into a void. So I need to be reading to an issue. Like I needed to pull the card from about the Pied Piper, and know what's real and know what's not, and honor what's real and give it its homage. So these are the statements, and they both have to do with acceptance. Acceptance Okay, I missed the word. Acceptance disempowers fear, darkness, and shame. In other words, when we accept what a situation is, we accept who we are, we accept what we can do about things, it can disempowers all those other guilts that come up on us when we don't look at the situation square in the eye. And the other statement that I wanted to put together with this was, it all begins and ends in your mind. What you give power to has power over you if you allow it to. So it all begins and ends in your mind. And what you give power to has power over you if you allow it to. So that means understanding how we're letting things into our lives and understanding how we're accepting things. So if you have questions about that or a statement or, I don't want to hear this stuff. I mean, I'm not easily offended. So if you'd care to comment on that, I would appreciate it if you did. I will, when Sheila's on the show with me, I will announce the winner of the just bag of stones I got that with that sort of little build your own crystal kit that I was going to send off. And we're taping on Wednesday, so it'll be Wednesday night when we announce the winner. Anyway, I look forward to seeing y'all there. Have a good day, have a good week, and I will see you later.